Sleepy English Academy, The Gentle River Song. Once upon a time, nestled in a quiet valley, there was a small village called Willowbrook. The village was surrounded by lush green hills and tall, ancient trees. A peaceful river, known as the Silver Stream, flowed gently through the heart of the village, and its soft murmurs could be heard by all who lived there. The villagers loved the river. It provided them with fresh water, a place to fish, and a spot to gather in the evenings. But more than anything, they loved the calming sound of the water as it flowed gently over the smooth stones. The sound was like a lullaby, a soft song that made people feel safe and relaxed. Every night, just as the sun was setting and the sky turned a soft shade of pink and orange, the villagers would sit by the river. They would close their eyes, take deep breaths, and let the soothing sound of the river fill their minds. It was their favorite time of day, a moment when all their worries seemed to float away with the gentle current. Among the villagers was a young girl named Lily. Lily loved the river more than anyone else. Every night, she would sit on the grassy bank, her feet dipping into the cool water, and listen to the river's soft melody. She would close her eyes and imagine that the river was telling her a story. One evening, as the sky began to darken and the first stars appeared, Lily heard something different in the river's song. It was as if the water was whispering her name. Curious, she leaned closer to the water and listened carefully. "Come with me, Lily," the river seemed to say. "I have something to show you." With a heart full of wonder, Lily stepped into the shallow waters. The river, gentle and kind, guided her along its path. The water was cool around her ankles, but it felt welcoming, like a soft blanket on a chilly night. As Lily followed the river, the world around her seemed to change. The trees grew taller, their branches weaving together to form a canopy of stars. The soft rustling of the leaves blended with the river's song, creating a melody that filled the air. Soon, Lily found herself in a secret glade, hidden from the rest of the world. In the center of the glade was a pool, its surface shimmering like silver under the moonlight. The river's voice was even clearer here, and it told her a story of long ago, of how the river came to be and the magic it held. The river told Lily that it had been flowing for centuries, ever since the first stars appeared in the sky. It had seen the rise and fall of great mountains, the growth of forests, and the change of seasons. But through it all, the river remained always flowing, always singing its gentle song. Lily listened, her heart full of peace. She knew that she had found a special place, a place where she could always return when she needed comfort and calm. As the night grew darker, the river whispered one last message to Lily. "Whenever you need me," it said, "just close your eyes and I will be there, singing my song for you." Lily smiled, her heart light and her mind at ease. She thanked the river and slowly made her way back to the village, the soft song of the river still echoing in her ears. From that night on, whenever Lily felt tired or worried, she would sit by the river, close her eyes, and listen to the gentle song. And just like the river promised, it always brought her peace. The Whispering Woods. In a far-off land, hidden behind rolling hills and quiet meadows, lay the Whispering Woods. The trees in the woods were tall and ancient, their branches stretching high into the sky like the arms of wise old giants. The leaves were a deep, shimmering green, and they would rustle softly in the wind as if sharing secrets with anyone who passed by. The people of the nearby village believed the woods were magical. They said the trees could talk, and if you listened closely, you could hear their whispers. But no one knew exactly what the trees were saying, except for a young boy named Finn. Finn lived in a cozy cottage at the edge of the woods with his grandmother. Every evening, just before sunset, Finn would walk to the edge of the forest and sit beneath the tallest tree. He would close his eyes and listen to the soft rustling of the leaves. The trees never spoke in words, but Finn could understand them all the same. They spoke in a language of the wind, of the earth, and of time itself. One evening, as the sky turned shades of pink and purple, the whisper seemed different, more urgent. The trees were telling Finn something important. He leaned in closer, his eyes closed, and he could feel the soft breeze brushing his cheeks. "Come deeper into the woods, Finn," the trees whispered gently. "There is something you must see." Without hesitation, Finn stood up and walked into the heart of the forest. The path beneath his feet was soft with fallen leaves, and the air was cool and fresh. As he ventured deeper, the trees' whispers grew louder, guiding him forward. After what felt like only a few moments, Finn arrived at a small clearing bathed in the soft glow of moonlight. In the center of the clearing stood a tree unlike any he had ever seen before. Its bark shimmered silver in the moonlight, and its leaves sparkled like tiny stars. This was a great tree, the oldest and wisest of all the trees in the Whispering Woods. Finn approached the great tree and placed his hand gently on its bark. He could feel the life within the tree, the steady pulse of its heartbeat. The great tree began to whisper, its voice soft but strong. "Finn," it said, "you are special. You have the gift of understanding the trees, a gift passed down through your family for generations. Tonight, I have something to give you, something that will help you in the days to come." From the highest branch of the great tree, a single leaf drifted down, glowing softly as it floated through the air. Finn reached out and caught the leaf in his hand. It was warm, and as he held it, he felt a sense of calm and strength fill him. "This leaf is a token of our bond," the great tree whispered. "Whenever you feel lost or uncertain, hold this leaf, and the wisdom of the forest will guide you." Finn thanked the great tree and carefully tucked the leaf into his pocket. He felt a deep sense of connection to the forest, as if the trees were now a part of him. The whispers of the woods had become his own thoughts, always there to comfort and guide him. As he made his way back to the village, the stars twinkled brightly above, and the soft whispers of the trees followed him, like a lullaby carrying him home. From that night on, whenever Finn faced a challenge or needed peace, he would hold the leaf from the great tree and listen to the whispers of the woods. And no matter where he was, the tree's gentle guidance would always lead him back to a place of calm and clarity. The night of the glowing fireflies. In a quiet village nestled between misty mountains, there was a special time each year that everyone eagerly awaited. The night of the glowing fireflies. It was a night when thousands of tiny fireflies would gather around the village, lighting up the sky like stars had fallen to the earth. For the villagers, it was more than just a beautiful sight. It was a time of peace and reflection. Every year, they would gather in the open fields, watching in awe as the glowing lights floated through the air, flickering like gentle flames in the night. In the village, there lived a little girl named Amara. Amara had always loved the fireflies. Since she was small, she had been fascinated by the way they danced and flickered, their lights soft and warm like the glow of a candle. Every year, she would sit in the same spot, her eyes wide with wonder, watching as the fireflies painted the night sky. But this year, something was different. As the fireflies began to appear, their lights glowing faintly in the distance, Amara noticed that their glow wasn't as bright as it had been before. The fireflies seemed slower, their lights dimmer, and it made her heart ache a little. Worried, she quietly slipped away from the group of villagers and wandered into the nearby forest. She had a feeling that the fireflies needed help, but she didn't know why. The trees in the forest stood tall and quiet, their leaves whispering softly in the gentle breeze. As she walked deeper into the woods, a soft, golden light appeared ahead of her. Amara followed the light, her steps careful and quiet, until she came to a small clearing. In the center of the clearing was a tall, glowing tree. Its leaves shimmered like the wings of the fireflies, and its branches stretched toward the sky, glowing faintly. A soft voice filled the air. "Amara," it whispered, "you have come to help, haven't you?" Amara blinked in surprise. She looked around but saw no one. The voice seemed to be coming from the glowing tree itself. Gathering her courage, she stepped closer. "Yes," she said softly. "I want to help the fireflies, but I don't know how." The tree's branches swayed gently as if nodding. The fireflies' glow is fading because they are tired. They need something special to renew their light. And that something is kindness. "Kindness?" Amara asked, tilting her head. The tree continued, its voice soft and soothing. "Yes, dear child. The fireflies draw their glow from the kindness in people's hearts. But lately, the village has been worried and anxious, and the fireflies feel it. They need to be reminded of the warmth of kindness." Amara thought for a moment, her heart filling with determination. "What can I do?" she asked. The tree's light shimmered a little brighter. "Tonight, show them kindness. Help those around you. Spread warmth, and the fireflies will feel it. Their light will return, and they will dance in the sky once more." Amara nodded, understanding what she needed to do. She thanked the tree and quickly made her way back to the village. The night was still, and the fireflies' faint glow flickered in the distance, barely visible. Without hesitation, Amara began offering small acts of kindness. She helped an elderly woman carry her basket. She shared her blanket with a friend who was cold, and she told gentle, comforting stories to the children nearby. Each time she did something kind, the fireflies seemed to glow just a little bit brighter. As the night went on, more and more villagers began to notice what Amara was doing. Inspired by her actions, they too began spreading kindness, offering warm smiles, sharing food, and comforting one another. Slowly but surely, the fireflies' glow returned, brighter and more beautiful than ever before. By the time midnight arrived, the entire village was bathed in the soft, golden light of thousands of fireflies. They danced through the air, their lights flickering like stars, and the villagers watched in awe. Amara smiled, her heart full of warmth. She had learned that even the smallest act of kindness could light up the darkest night. And from that day on, whenever the fireflies returned, the villagers remembered to spread kindness and warmth, knowing that their actions would keep the fireflies glowing bright year after year. The Moon's Secret Garden. In a quiet little town by the sea, there was a story passed down through generations about a magical garden that only appeared under the light of a full moon. People called it the Moon's Secret Garden. Many believed it was just a tale to entertain children, but others whispered that the garden was real, hidden away in a place that no one had found for centuries. In that same town lived a boy named Elias. He had always been curious about the stories of the moon's secret garden. Every time the full moon rose high in the sky, Elias would stand by his window and wonder what it would be like to walk among the moonlit flowers and hear the whispers of the night. One evening, when the full moon was brighter than ever, Elias couldn't resist the urge to explore. Quietly slipping out of his home, he wandered along the beach, the moonlight guiding his path. The waves lapped gently at the shore, their sound like a lullaby, and the cool breeze carried the scent of the sea. As Elias walked, he noticed something unusual. The moonlight seemed to be shining brighter on a small, hidden path between two tall cliffs. He had never seen that path before, but something about it felt inviting, as if it had been waiting just for him. With a deep breath, Elias followed the path. It twisted and turned, leading him away from the beach and into a small valley hidden behind the cliffs. There, in the center of the valley, he saw it, a garden bathed in soft silver light. The moon's secret garden was real. Elias stood in awe as he gazed at the glowing flowers that covered the ground. Their petals shimmered like pearls, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of night-blooming jasmine. In the center of the garden stood a tall tree with leaves that sparkled as if they were dusted with moonlight. The branches of the tree swayed gently in the breeze, and Elias could hear a soft melody, like the hum of distant stars. He stepped carefully into the garden, not wanting to disturb the peaceful beauty around him. As he walked, he noticed that each flower seemed to glow a little brighter when he touched it. The garden felt alive, as though it knew he was there, and it welcomed him. At the base of the tall tree, Elias found a small bench made of smooth white stone. He sat down and looked up at the moon, which hung low in the sky, casting its light over everything. As he sat there, the soft melody of the garden grew louder, and Elias felt a sense of peace wash over him, like a gentle wave. He closed his eyes, letting the calming sounds of the garden fill his mind. The world around him seemed to slow down, and his thoughts became quiet, like leaves floating on the surface of a still pond. Suddenly, a voice as soft as the night breeze spoke to him. "Elias, you have found the moon's secret garden. This is a place of rest, where all worries fade away." Elias opened his eyes and saw a figure standing beside the tree. It was a woman with hair as white as the moonlight, her eyes gentle and kind. She smiled at him, her presence calm and reassuring. "Who are you?" Elias asked quietly, his voice barely more than a whisper. "I am the keeper of this garden," she replied. "It appears only to those who seek peace and quiet in their hearts. You are here because you needed rest, and the moon has guided you." Elias nodded, feeling the truth of her words. He had been restless lately, his mind filled with thoughts that wouldn't quiet down. But now, sitting in this garden, he felt as though all his worries had melted away. The woman knelt beside him, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. "Whenever you need peace, Elias, remember this place. It will always be with you, even when you cannot see it." Elias smiled, his heart feeling light and calm. He knew he would remember this night for the rest of his life. The garden had shown him that peace wasn't something you had to find. It was something you could carry within you. As the moon began to set and the sky turned a soft shade of pink, Elias stood up from the bench. He took one last look at the beautiful garden, the flowers glowing softly in the dawn's early light, and then he turned to leave. The path that had brought him to the garden seemed even more magical now, as if it had become part of him. As Elias made his way back home, He knew that even though the moon's secret garden might disappear with the sunrise, its peaceful presence would stay with him forever. The Cloud Keeper's dream. High above the earth, where the sky met the stars, there was a place hidden from the eyes of most people. It was called the Land of Clouds. This was where all the clouds in the sky were born, cared for, and guided across the world by the Cloud Keepers. Magical beings who shaped and moved the clouds, making sure they brought rain, shade, or soft blankets for the night. Among the Cloud Keepers was a young boy named Orion. Unlike the other keepers, who were tall and graceful, Orion was small and quiet. He had just begun learning how to shape the clouds, and though he tried his best, he often found it difficult to control them. His clouds would float away too quickly, or they would turn into funny shapes that didn't belong in the sky. One evening, as the sun began to set, turning the sky into shades of gold and pink, Orion sat on a soft cloud, looking up at the stars. He felt a little sad. While the other cloud keepers could create perfect, fluffy clouds that move with ease, his always seemed to have a mind of their own. "I'll never be as good as the others," Orion sighed, watching as his latest cloud floated off into the distance, turning into a lopsided sheep shape. Just then, an old cloud keeper named Celestia appeared beside him. Her silver hair sparkled like stardust, and her eyes were as bright as the moon. She smiled warmly at Orion and sat down next to him. "Why the sad face, Orion?" she asked gently. "I'm not very good at making clouds," Orion admitted. "They never turn out right, and they don't move the way I want them to. I feel like I don't belong here." Celestia chuckled softly. "Every cloud keeper has their own way of shaping the clouds, Orion. No two are the same. You don't need to make them perfect. You just need to make them yours." Orion looked up at her, unsure. "But how do I find my own way?" Celestia gazed up at the stars, her eyes twinkling. "Close your eyes, Orion," she said, "and listen to the sky. Let it guide you." Curious but uncertain, Orion did as she said. He closed his eyes and let the cool breeze of the night wash over him. He could hear the soft whispers of the wind, the gentle hum of the stars, and the quiet breath of the earth below. As he listened, something began to change inside him. He felt lighter, as though he was floating on the breeze itself. Suddenly he saw it. A dreamlike vision of soft clouds dancing through the sky, shaped by gentle hands. They were unlike the usual clouds. They were playful, unique, and full of character. Some looked like animals, others like castles, and some were just soft, glowing puffs of mist. They moved gracefully, not because they were being controlled, but because they were free to dance in the wind. Orion opened his eyes and smiled. He knew now what Celestia meant. He stood up, raised his hands toward the sky, and called the clouds to him. This time, he didn't try to force them into perfect shapes or make them move exactly as he thought they should. Instead, he let them flow naturally, forming soft, dreamy shapes. One by one, the clouds floated into the sky, some shaped like birds, others like whales, and some simply glowing like little stars. Celestia watched with pride. "You found your way, Orion," she said softly. From that day on, Orion became known as the Dream Cloud Keeper. His clouds were unlike any others, soft and whimsical. They brought dreams to those who looked up at them. People on Earth would often gaze at the sky and smile when they saw Orion's clouds, for they were filled with joy and wonder. And as for Orion, he no longer felt out of place. He knew that his clouds didn't have to be perfect. They just had to be his own. Every evening, He would sit on his favorite cloud, watching as the sky filled with his dreamy creations and feel at peace. The Star Collector. Once, in a peaceful village where the night sky was always clear and full of stars, lived a quiet man named Corin. He wasn't like the other villagers, who spent their days farming or fishing. Corin had a special job. He was a star collector. Each night, when the world had gone to sleep and the stars twinkled high above, Corin would climb the highest hill behind the village. There, in the quiet stillness of the night, he would raise his hands toward the sky, and the stars would float down to him one by one. He didn't take all the stars, just a few from the night sky. Corin's job was to catch the tired stars, the ones that had been shining for many years and were ready to rest. With a gentle hand, Corin would catch the stars in his soft, velvet pouch. He treated each star with great care, for stars were delicate things. Once he had gathered enough, he would take them to the top of a special mountain that only he knew about. This mountain, hidden deep in the woods, was where the stars went to rest. At the summit, there was a small lake, its water clear and still like glass. Corin would place the stars gently in the lake, and they would sink into its calm waters, glowing softly as they found their place beneath the surface. The lake was magical. It was said that the stars didn't disappear, but instead transformed into the dreams of people sleeping below. Whenever someone had a peaceful, wonderful dream, it was because a star from the lake had become a part of it. Corin loved his work. He knew how important it was to let the stars rest and to give people beautiful dreams. But one night, something unusual happened. As he reached the top of the hill and began to collect the tired stars, he noticed a particularly bright star shining more brightly than any he had ever seen. It pulsed with light, almost as if it didn't want to leave the sky. Curious, Corin raised his hands, and the star floated down to him. As it settled into his pouch, it shone so brightly that it lit up the whole hilltop. Corin had never seen a star so full of life. He decided to take it to the resting lake, just as he did with all the other stars. But as he walked through the forest, the star's light grew warmer and brighter. By the time he reached the mountain, it felt as though the star wasn't ready to rest at all. When Corin arrived at the lake, he knelt by the water's edge and looked at the star. It shimmered in his hand, glowing with a kind of energy he had never felt before. Corin hesitated. Something about this star was different. It wasn't tired. It was full of life, like it had more to give. Suddenly, the star began to hum softly, and Corin understood. This star didn't want to rest. It wanted to keep shining. Smiling, Corin stood up and looked up at the night sky. He knew what he had to do. Instead of placing the star in the lake, he gently tossed it back into the sky. The star soared upwards, brighter and faster than any other star he had ever released. It wasn't long before the whole sky seemed to glow more brightly, as if the other stars were cheering for their friend who had returned. The village below was bathed in soft starlight, and Corin felt a deep sense of joy. From that night on, the bright star became a guide in the night sky, shining down over the village and helping lost travelers find their way home. And though it never rested in the lake, the star continued to inspire peaceful, beautiful dreams in the hearts of all who saw its light. As for Corin, he continued his work, gathering the tired stars and letting them rest in the lake. But he never forgot the special star that wanted to keep shining, and every time he looked up at the sky, he smiled, knowing that even stars had their own paths to follow. The Whispering Forest. In a small village surrounded by tall, green hills, there was a place known as the Whispering Forest. The trees in the forest were ancient, their branches stretching high toward the sky, their leaves rustling softly in the wind. But what made this forest special wasn't just its beauty. It was the fact that the trees could whisper. If you listened closely, you could hear them telling stories, sharing secrets, and even singing lullabies to the animals that lived beneath their branches. Not many people visited the Whispering Forest because they were too busy with their daily lives. But there was one person who loved the forest more than anything, a young girl named Layla. Layla had always felt a connection to nature. She could spend hours sitting by the trees, listening to their soft voices and feeling the gentle breeze brush her cheeks. Whenever she was sad or needed to think, she would visit the Whispering Forest, and the trees would always make her feel better. One evening, as the sun began to set and the sky turned a deep shade of purple, Layla felt a pull toward the forest. She didn't know why, but something inside her told her that the trees had something important to say. Grabbing a light shawl, she quietly slipped out of her house and made her way toward the edge of the village. The path to the Whispering Forest was familiar to her, and soon she was standing at its entrance, the tall trees welcoming her with their soft whispers. As she walked deeper into the forest, the sound of the trees grew clearer. It was as if they were calling her, guiding her to a place she had never been before. Layla followed the sound of the whispers until she reached a clearing she had never seen. In the center of the clearing stood the oldest tree in the forest, a great oak with a trunk so wide that it would take several people to wrap their arms around it. The branches of the oak stretched out like arms, and its leaves shimmered in the fading light. Layla approached the oak tree and placed her hand on its bark. The moment she touched it, she felt a warmth spread through her fingers, and the tree's whisper became clear. Layla, the oak tree said softly, "We have watched over this forest for many years. But now, we need your help." Layla blinked in surprise. "My help?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. The oak's leaves rustled gently. "Yes, child, there is a part of the forest that is lost. It has been asleep for many years, hidden in a place where no sunlight reaches. Without the light, the trees there have forgotten how to grow, and the forest is slowly losing its heart." Layla's eyes widened. She had never heard of a hidden part of the forest. "What can I do?" she asked. "You must find the heart of the forest and bring light back to it," the oak tree replied. "The light will awaken the sleeping trees, and their whispers will return." Layla nodded, feeling a sense of purpose. "I will help," she said. The oak tree's branches swayed, and one of its leaves floated down into Layla's hand. "This leaf will guide you," the tree said. "Follow its glow, and it will lead you to the heart of the forest." Layla looked down at the leaf, which shimmered softly in her hand. She thanked the oak tree and began her journey deeper into the forest, the glowing leaf lighting her way. As she walked, the forest grew darker, and the trees around her became quieter. The air was cooler here, and the ground was soft with moss. After what felt like hours, Layla came to a stop in front of a small, overgrown grove. The trees here were tall and twisted, their branches bare, and the air was still. There was no whispering, no breeze, just silence. "This must be the heart of the forest," Layla whispered to herself. She held up the glowing leaf, and its light grew brighter, illuminating the grove. As the light touched the trees, something magical happened. The trees began to shimmer, their branches slowly stretching toward the sky. Leaves started to sprout, glowing softly in the darkness, and soon the entire grove was bathed in a warm, golden light. The trees around Layla began to whisper again, their voices soft and peaceful. The heart of the forest had awakened, and its whispers filled the air with stories of old times and new beginnings. Layla smiled, feeling the peace and magic of the forest surround her. She knew that the forest would always be there, whispering its secrets to those who took the time to listen. As she made her way back to the village, the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, and the trees whispered their thanks. Layla knew that she had done something special, something that would keep the whispering forest alive for many years to come. The Lake of Dreams. In a valley surrounded by tall mountains, there was a lake unlike any other. It was known as the Lake of Dreams because its waters held the power to bring people's dreams to life. The water was crystal clear during the day, reflecting the blue sky and the snowy peaks of the mountains. But at night, when the stars came out, the lake would glow with soft, shimmering light, as if it were filled with starlight itself. The villagers living nearby knew about the lake's magic, but they rarely spoke of it. Only a few believed the stories, while others thought it was just a legend told to children. But one girl named Mira had always believed the lake was special. Since she was young, her grandmother would tell her stories of how the lake would light up with the dreams of those who visited it, showing them visions of their heart's deepest desires. Mira loved those stories, and as she grew older, she longed to see the magic of the Lake of Dreams for herself. So, one quiet evening, when the moon was full and the stars were beginning to twinkle in the sky, Mira decided it was time. She grabbed a lantern and quietly left her village, following the winding path through the woods toward the lake. The night air was cool and fresh, and the only sound was the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. As she walked, the trees seemed to whisper softly around her, as if encouraging her to continue on her journey. Mira felt a sense of calm and excitement growing inside her as she drew closer to the lake. When she finally reached the edge of the water, she gasped in awe. The Lake of Dreams was even more beautiful than she had imagined. Its surface glowed softly, reflecting the stars above, and the water shimmered with a light that seemed to come from deep within. The sight was breathtaking, and for a moment, Mira simply stood there, mesmerized by the peaceful beauty in front of her. Remembering her grandmother's stories, Mira knelt by the water's edge and closed her eyes. She thought about her deepest wish, a dream she had carried in her heart for as long as she could remember. She dreamed of adventure, of traveling beyond the mountains, of seeing new places and meeting people from all over the world. As she thought about her dream, something magical happened. When Mira opened her eyes, the lake had changed. The glowing water now showed a vision, a scene playing out as if it were a living dream. In the vision, Mira saw herself standing at the top of a mountain she had never seen before, the wind in her hair, a smile on her face. She was exploring new lands, meeting new people, and learning about places far beyond her village. The vision was so vivid that it felt real. Mira could almost feel the mountain breeze and hear the voices of the people she would one day meet. The lake was showing her future, her dream come to life. For a long time, Mira sat by the lake, watching her dream unfold in the glowing water. It filled her with hope and excitement for the future. She knew that one day, she would leave the valley and explore the world, just as she had always dreamed. As the vision slowly faded and the lake returned to its soft, shimmering glow, Mira felt a deep sense of peace. The Lake of Dreams had shown her what was possible, and she knew that her dream was within reach. Feeling grateful, Mira stood up and whispered her thanks to the lake. The water seemed to ripple gently in response, as if acknowledging her gratitude. With a heart full of hope, Mira made her way back through the woods, the lantern lighting her path home. That night, as she lay in bed, Mira felt different. The magic of the lake had filled her with a sense of purpose and excitement for the future. She knew that, no matter how long it took, she would follow her dream, and the Lake of Dreams would always be there to remind her of the possibilities that lay ahead.
Subscribe for more videos. Your support helps me create more content. Thanks for watching.